Teacher's shocking doubt revealed, Black boy's incredible journey to Harvard after 12 years. Jamal Carter sat at his desk, the remnants of his lunch forgotten beside him as he stared into space, mind racing. Through the window, sunlight poured in but failed to reach the shadows he felt inside. Today was the day he would begin preparing for the summer program at Harvard, a lifeline, a dream glittering just out of reach against a sky of doubt. But then, Mr. Henderson's voice intruded, slicing through his determination like a knife. "You really think you can make it out? Look around, Jamal. This isn't your world." Each word dripped with indifference, marking him like a scar that refused to heal. He could hear the laughter echoing in the hallways, the whispers that accompanied every attempt he made to speak up in class. "Just a statistic," he'd said in that weary, apathetic tone. The weight of those words chained him to the ground. In the cozy corners of his mind, his grandmother's stories unfurled. Always, they spoke of resilience and strength, planted in his heart like seeds. Her smile, warm and steadfast, reminded him that giants had walked before him, facing walls much taller than his own. But could a story woven from pain and perseverance really light the way through such darkness? The fear of failure clung to him, relentless, like cold fingers squeezing the air from his lungs. Jamal questioned himself, oftentimes wondering if he was simply chasing an illusion. Was he meant for greatness, or was he just an echo, lingering where no one could hear him? He tucked a pencil behind his ear, suddenly struck by the voice of Ms. Rivera, the new history teacher. She had seen him, truly seen him, much like a star breaking through a foggy night. "Jamal, you have so much potential." Her encouragement was a bright flame against the chill of indifference that surrounded him. Under her guidance, all the buried curiosity within him began to blossom. History breathed life through his fingers, and knowledge became a refuge. And yet, despite soaring grades, he still felt the shadows of doubt creeping closer each day, tightening around him like a noose. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jamal felt the precarious balance within him shift as whispers of a scandal unraveled the facade of Mr. Henderson's authority. The world around him morphed under the weight of betrayal, as if each student had suddenly become muted witnesses to his suffering. Tension mounted, choking him with questions. How could he confront a man respected by adults, a man who wielded his disdain like a weapon? Each breath was deliberate, unnaturally slow, as he considered speaking at the upcoming school meeting. Standing up meant claiming space in a world eager to shove him back down, but what about his classmates? Would they share his burden, or would they hang their heads in hopelessness? Jamal's hands trembled with uncertainty, replaying the echoes of every dismissive remark, every raised eyebrow that told him he didn't belong. This was more than just about him. It was an act of defiance against the shadows that had pursued him for too long. As he prepared for the moment he would step into that public forum, gathering strength from Ms. Rivera's unwavering support, doubt skittered like wildfire through his mind. Would he stand tall, or would the chains of societal expectations tether him to silence once again? The clock ticked mercilessly toward an uncertain future, each second weighing heavier than the last as Jamal swallowed hard, caught between the urge to hide and the stirring need to roar. What would happen when he finally opened his mouth to speak? Would his voice shatter the silence, or would it vanish into echoes, forever lost? Jamal sat on the edge of his bed, the evening light fading into twilight as he replayed the day's events in his mind. His stomach churned, not from the tacos his grandmother had made for dinner, but from the cacophony of emotions swirling within him. Courage and fear wrestled for dominance as he contemplated the school meeting. Would he really rise to his feet, confronting not just Mr. Henderson, but the oppressive weight of expectation that surrounded him? The echoes of laughter didn't seem to come from the past, they lingered around him, almost tangible in their mockery. Jamal clenched his fists, frustrated. He didn't belong in their circle of doubt, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that his insecurities were somehow woven into his very identity. How could he transform that voice of ridicule into a resounding declaration of hope? His mind flickered to Ms. Rivera's expectations, a spark of belief that was both empowering and intimidating. He willed himself to focus. Sitting at his desk, he opened his notebook to the blank pages meant for brainstorming ideas. If he was going to confront Mr. Henderson, he needed a plan, a way to express not just his own struggles but those of others like him, who faced a similar future riddled with obstacles. He began to write, each word building clarity, each phrase stripping away the layers of his despair. Documenting his feelings transformed the fear into something tangible. He discovered his own voice, words flooded from his heart. There was a truth that needed to be spoken. Time ambled on as he worked fervently, creation weaving through the uncertainty like a thread of hope. When the page was full, he leaned back, staring at his thoughts laid bare before him. It struck him then the moment felt pivotal, his life pivoting on a single point of reckoning. This wasn't simply about taking a stand against a teacher, this was about crafting his own destiny, about confronting a world that too often underestimated him. Gathering his courage, Jamal read his words aloud, owning them with every breath. With each declaration of intent, he felt a rush of exhilaration, a flicker of independence rising within. The shadows encroached, whispering doubts, yet they seemed less overpowering now. He imagined his peers listening, taking in his truth, all the while considering what it meant for them. If he felt this way, how many others shared the same fears, wrapped in silence? The clock struck 9, reminding him of the meeting looming like a weight above him. Tonight was not just another chapter, it was a potential turning point. What if his vulnerability could transform into strength? What if this act could show those around him that they were not alone in their doubts? Boldness had never come easily to him, but tonight was different. Uncertainty still lingered, but clarity clawed its way forth, driving away the muted voices. He couldn't allow fear to dissipate this moment. He was not just a statistic, he was Jamal Carter, and he was ready to confront the shadows that had tried to claim him. The thought sparked urgency, pushing aside hesitations as he pieced together a deeper understanding of himself. It was not just about his past but the route he could carve for the future. The repercussions of his voice could ripple through the entire school. He wouldn't just speak for himself but for everyone who had been stifled. As he shut his notebook, determination coursing through him, the reality blossomed finally, he would face the night head-on. But as he prepared for bed, a flicker of doubt whispered in his ear, what if he was wrong? What if this didn't change anything at all? Anxiety clawed at him, unrelenting. Tomorrow the moment loomed larger than life. Would he take that first step into the light, or would he retreat into the familiarity of shadows? The answer lay just beyond his reach, dangling precariously, ready to ignite not just his fate but the futures of many unknown souls still confined in silence. Jamal woke with the dawn creeping through the window, the light a stark contrast to the swirling shadows of the previous night. He sat up, the weight of what lay ahead pressing heavily on his chest. The tentative hope he'd nurtured felt like a thin veneer, easily shatterable. He shuffled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face in a futile attempt to wash away the anxiety. Thoughts raced, colliding with memories of self-doubt and the ruthless judgments of his peers. Today was not just a meeting, it was a reckoning. The nature of school had always been clear: play by the rules, keep your head down, and endure. But what if endurance was no longer enough? He was teetering at the edge of transformation, and either way, the fall promised to hurt. Stay focused, Jamal, he muttered to himself, adjusting the collar of his shirt. The reflection in the mirror now bore a determination he hadn't fully acknowledged until this moment. He was no longer just a passive participant in his own life, he was an agent of change. As he walked toward school, the streets buzzed with the normalcy of his classmates laughing, shouting, racing off to greet teachers, oblivious to the shifting currents inside him. He felt like an island, alone amidst a sea of energy. Yet, beneath that solitude was a burgeoning resolve, bolstered by the unspoken challenges of his peers that he'd finally chosen to give voice to. What would his classmates think? The irony struck him most of the time. He'd let others dictate how he should feel about himself. He thought of Ms. Rivera, her unwavering belief in his potential stoking the flames of his inspiration. If he could only channel that faith, perhaps he could reveal not just his own struggles, but those of countless others who felt equally unheard and unseen. Today, he would turn vulnerability into power. Once in the hallway, he could feel the palpable tension wrapping around him. The meeting loomed like an ominously predictable storm. He sought refuge in thoughts of his notes, the carefully crafted phrases that had poured from him the night before. The very act of writing didn't merely document his fears, it had harnessed them into a weapon of articulation. Faced with the classroom door, anxiety surged. What if he stumbled? What if the very authenticity he planned to present became an avalanche of his worst fears? But just as he was about to let doubt sway him, he remembered the list of names he'd written down next to his own, each one a reminder of a voice that had been stifled, a struggle avoided. Each name was a person who might have felt just as isolated. With a deep breath, Jamal stepped into the room. The gathered teachers' eyes found him with varying degrees of curiosity and scrutiny. Mr. Henderson's visible skepticism twisted something deep within him, igniting a flame of defiance. Jamal's heart raced as he approached the front of the room, fixing his gaze on the faces in front of him. He squared his shoulders, lifted his chin, and prepared to voice the truths he had been harboring. The air within the room thickened, pregnant with unspoken tensions. The silence begged for disruption. This was his moment. He remembered why he was there, not simply to confront Mr. Henderson but to reclaim his narrative. As he opened his mouth to speak, a piercing whisper echoed within. Could he truly do this? Bad memories rushed forth, threatening to drown him in fear. But then Jamal steadied himself, an inner conviction silently reminding him that he had already come too far to turn back. In that moment of clarity, he understood that stability, like growth, required shaking off the dust of discomfort. Jamal was not just a kid from the back row, he was a force to be reckoned with. Then, the urgency of his silence solidified into words that begged to be spoken. The question loomed: would he rise to take ownership of his future, or would he allow the insecurities of his past to dictate his fate? As he began to find his voice, he realized he was not merely speaking for himself, but for an entire generation seeking validation. And with that thought coursing through him, the room hung in suspense. Would this be the catalyst of change, or the prelude to further loneliness? The silence shattered with his first words, cutting through the murmur of self-doubt that had crept upon him just moments before. I'm Jamal, and I'm here to talk about the pressures we face every day. Hearing his own voice filled him with a jolt of electricity, a surge of adrenaline that fanned the flame of his resolve. The teachers looked at him, their expressions shifting from skepticism to curiosity. Each sentence he crafted began to untangle the knots that had formed in his chest. He spoke of the whispers in the hallways, the judgment that hung like mist in the air, and the loneliness that gnawed at him during every quiet moment. As he shared the names on his list, he could see some of the teachers shifting uncomfortably. It was as if he was peeling away the layers of pretense they had wrapped themselves in, revealing a raw, unfiltered reality. Every day, we skirt around the truth, he continued, courage blooming with each word. We pretend everything is fine when it's not. But I've realized that pretending only isolates us further. He caught Mr. Henderson's critical gaze, which had begun to soften, and felt a flicker of hope. If he could reach even one person, perhaps his vulnerability would transform into a powerful message. As he spoke, memories of his struggles cascaded into his mind. The late nights spent studying while hearing laughter from outside, the sting of subpar grades despite his effort, and the feeling of being invisible among a sea of faces. Each recollection carved deeper lines of fervor into his narrative. He was not just voicing personal grievances, he was crafting a collective call for acceptance, understanding, and change. The room felt smaller, the weight of his words pressing down on everyone gathered. A murmur rippled through the teachers, a blend of surprise and contemplation. He could sense their grappling with the reality he portrayed, that their students were mapping lives colored by fear and misunderstanding, where yearnings often got lost amidst expectations. Then he hesitated, a fleeting rush of doubt threatening to seize him. What if they dismissed him? What if they were satisfied with the status quo? Just a moment of silence hung in the air, but Jamal remembered why he was fighting. For every name he had spoken, for every overlooked hardship, he resolved not to surrender. He was ready to replace uncertainty with a challenge. If we want things to change, he asserted with clarity, we need to listen. We need to confront uncomfortable truths. Jamal watched as his words sparked reactions among the crowd. Some teachers nodded, while others were visibly taken aback, perhaps realizing for the first time the disconnect between them and their students. It was invigorating to see that his moment of truth was resonating. They hadn't tuned him out. They were finally listening. But just as he began to feel empowered, he noted Mr. Henderson's frown deepening, the discontent evident. The looming sense of confrontation felt like a threat now. Jamal had ignited a fire, but would he be able to contain it? Would he be extinguished by the very authority he sought to confront? He pressed forward, revealing his incensed desire for a platform where students felt their voices mattered, where they could share their thoughts without the cloud of judgment. Yet entering this territory was also treacherous. He owed it to himself and his classmates to push past Mr. Henderson's frown and advance. With a daring challenge in his voice, Jamal leaned into the pressure. Let us change this conversation. Let us inspire a culture that doesn't turn a blind eye to these struggles. I won't back down from that. The urgency of his claim hung palpably in the air. The standoff ignited an unexpected spark within him, revealing just how far he was willing to go for this mission. But with intensity swiftly rising in the room, the question remained, would he be rewarded for his boldness, or would he face a backlash that could crush him? As the moment settled into an unsettling silence, Jamal's breath quickened, heart racing with both exhilaration and trepidation. He had thrust himself into the ring, but would he emerge unscathed? The stillness that enveloped the room became suffocating, and yet it buzzed with an electric tension. Jamal's pulse quickened as he locked eyes with Mr. Henderson, the weight of the moment hung heavy between them. Would the challenge he laid down ignite further conflict, or could it spark the beginning of real change? Mr. Cook, Mr. Henderson finally spoke, cutting through the silence, his tone low and laced with skepticism. Are you suggesting that we simply scrap our entire curriculum based on your feelings? That doesn't seem practical or realistic. The words stung, but Jamal refused to let them pierce his resolve. He took a breath to steady himself, feeling the adrenaline rush through his veins as he prepared to respond. No, sir, that's not what I'm suggesting, Jamal replied, heart racing. I'm advocating for an understanding that starts with what we're facing daily. We can't address issues that don't get spoken about. If we ignore these things, how can we expect to support our students fully? Real change needs real conversations. The swell of confidence coursing through him felt like a tidal wave overcoming his fear. Could he really convince them? The tiny glimmers of empowerment shone brighter now. He sensed his voice resonating in the room. A few teachers were shifting in their seats, expressions transforming as if they were absorbing his words, perhaps even contemplating their own roles in these dynamics. Mr. Henderson leaned back, a frown deepening as he crossed his arms. It would require more than just feelings to overhaul our system, Jamal. We have structures in place for a reason. And there it was, the systemic barrier. Jamal felt a flicker of frustration building inside. It was a challenge buried in a mask of authority, and he had to navigate it carefully. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on him. This was the crucial confrontation he had been dreading. Structures, he repeated, his voice steady. But do we allow those structures to stifle the voices of students? We have policies in place, yes, but we also have a responsibility to foster environments where students can breathe, express themselves, and truly belong. We shouldn't sacrifice our humanity to keep the status quo. The ripple of discontent was palpable. A few teachers exchanged glances, clearly moved yet uncertain how to respond. Jamal realized he wasn't just fighting for acknowledgement but for a pathway to a deeper understanding, a space where emotional truth could reshape the very structures being defended. Mr. Henderson's expression softened just for a moment, before the stern mask returned. "This isn't just about you, Jamal. What you're suggesting could throw everything into disarray. Do you understand the potential chaos it could cause?" Chaos. How could he explain that sometimes chaos is necessary for growth? Behind the opposing glare, Jamal saw a flicker of vulnerability in Henderson's eyes, which tugged at his empathy. This man was terrified of change, and while Jamal tried to strategize with heart, fear and uncertainty were powerful forces in education. "I understand that change is scary," Jamal replied, recalibrating. "But isn't it scarier to continue with a system that alienates individuals? Aren't we risking the well-being of our future leaders every single day?" His voice filled the silence, a plea wrapped in conviction. He searched the room, seeking affirmation in the eyes of his peers, the other teachers who nodded subtly. He had allies. Was this the moment everything shifted? With every heartbeat, Jamal sensed the stakes elevating, the idea of standing his ground fueling a more profound sense of purpose. Yet deep down, he felt a nagging doubt. Was he prepared to face the consequences of stirring such a powerful conversation? Suddenly, the bell rang, breaking the tension yet amplifying his anxiety. Students were about to flood the halls, and Jamal could feel the urgency of now pressing upon him. "Listen," he began, urgency flooding his tone. "The moment is now. If we don't start these conversations today, we might lose our chance entirely." As the commotion of students approached, Jamal's heart raced. Would they see his dedication, or would they be dismissed? Would he have allies by the time the dust settled, or would he stand alone at the edge of this transformative precipice? In this crucial moment, Jamal realized his journey had just begun, but with each challenge, he could either crumble or rise. As he prepared to step beyond the threshold into the fray of student life again, he felt the tremors of anticipation and dread coincide. What lay ahead would be the ultimate test of his courage. Would Jamal's words ignite a movement, or would they flicker out, leaving him to navigate a tumultuous landscape alone? The hallways erupted in a cacophony of voices and footsteps as students streamed in, filling every corner with life. Jamal stepped beyond the threshold, the energy overwhelming yet invigorating. He felt both a sense of urgency and an inner stir of courage. No longer just an observant teacher, he now understood that he was embroiled in a larger battle for change, a battle rooted firmly in the hearts of the students who hungered for a voice. For the first time, he noticed how many faces reflected a mixture of confusion, determination, and an undeniable need for connection. They passed him, their chatter consuming the air, but Jamal couldn't shake the weight of new expectations settled squarely on his shoulders. As the waves of students rushed by, he caught glimpses of familiar faces. Maria, a junior who had often approached him after class, her hands ringing nervously, suddenly seemed different. There was an intensity in her gaze that suggested she had been listening not just to lessons, but to the whispers of dissatisfaction with the status quo. Jamal felt a pull to speak with her. "Maria," he called, his voice cutting through the noise. She turned, her eyes wide. "Mr. Cook, can I talk to you?" She blinked, scanning their surroundings. "It's about what you said." Jamal felt a spark of hope ignite. "Of course. Let us grab a quiet spot," he replied, steering her toward a corner where the hallway narrowed, shielded slightly from the buzz of other students. "What you said in there, it was different," she murmured, her voice a mix of admiration and fear. "Are you really going to push for those changes?" "I am," he replied, his heart racing at the magnitude of his commitment. "But I can't do it alone. I want to know how you and others feel about it. What do you think needs to change?" Her eyes flared with passion. There are so many things. We can't afford to just get through the year. We need to be heard. Too often, it feels like nobody cares what we think. Recognition flooded through Jamal. Here she was, a student ready to step out of the shadows of apathy. It was as if he was witnessing the birth of a leader right before him. Exactly, Maria. That's part of what I'm fighting for. The voices of students need to be at the forefront of the discussion. As they exchanged ideas, Jamal realized he was not simply a facilitator of knowledge but a participant in a transformative dialogue. Maria began sharing her experiences with systemic issues in their school, highlighting instances where she felt unheard, where her peers had surrendered to silence. Each story she relayed fueled Jamal's resolve and ignited his doubts. Was he equipped to handle the complexities of this movement he aimed to create? As her words painted the picture of their school's climate, he began to question the support systems around them. Would he be strong enough to face potential backlash? Jamal's thoughts spiraled. He sensed that directing this change would be fraught with challenges. In learning to facilitate these discussions, could he truly represent them, their aspirations, their fears? As they wrapped up their conversation, she looked him straight in the eye. You can do this, Mr. Cook. You just have to believe in what you're fighting for. Her conviction reverberated through him like a clarion call. They parted, but Jamal walked away feeling a curious mix of empowerment and vulnerability. He had cracked the door open but feared what might rush in. The bell rang again, signaling the end of class. Teachers moved from classrooms, ready to take their places alongside their students, oblivious to the complex terrain ahead. Jamal knew he had to muster all the courage he could find, but his mind raced with questions. Would this push for change gain momentum? Would he be able to maintain this newfound trust among his students? As he entered his classroom, he resolved to foster more of these conversations, to empower students to voice their opinions freely. He took a deep breath, ready to welcome the inevitable confrontation between enthusiasm and fear of the unknown. Yet a gnawing sensation clawed at him. What if he failed? Would he stand alone in battling the very structures meant to support them? The moment weighed heavy on his conscience. The greatest test loomed ahead. The appointment with Mr. Henderson was only days away, and Jamal knew that to challenge a system would require more than mere words. It demanded unwavering belief in his cause and the strength to endure. What if this was just the opening round in a fight for something larger, something he wasn't quite prepared for? Jamal sat at his desk, the classroom a hushed scene of unfinished assignments and scattered textbooks. His thoughts were a whirlwind, grappling with the implications of what lay ahead. The echo of Maria's voice filled with urgency and hope looped in his mind. Could he really rally the students to take a stand? Could he, a single teacher in a sea of bureaucracy, be their champion? He scanned the room, observing his students. Some were lost in their phones, others scribbling half-hearted notes, but Jamal sensed a deeper discontent simmering just beneath the surface. He recalled Maria's piercing gaze as she spoke of feeling marginalized, her passion contagious yet unsettling. In that moment, he not only saw the problem, he recognized a shared struggle connecting them all. Jamal's resolve wavered, fear seeped in. Was he truly equipped to lead? Every bold statement he made felt like a declaration that could easily unravel with the first sign of resistance. What if his efforts to advocate for their voice only invited backlash from the administration, a force he had always perceived as immovable? Determined to quell the doubt, he grabbed a sheet of paper and began jotting down ideas. A brainstorming session was in order, a safe space for students to express their thoughts. Every voice mattered, every opinion an essential piece of the puzzle he was trying to assemble. But who would be brave enough to share their dissenting views? He remembered a time not so long ago when he had stood before a class, too timid to voice his opinions, allowing the status quo to stifle his aspirations. Had he fallen into the same pattern? In the roar of self-doubt, clarity struck him. He realized that by empowering his students, he was also pushing himself. Each candid conversation he fostered would chip away at the walls he had unknowingly built around himself. He resolved to take a different approach that day. Instead of launching directly into the curriculum, he would open up a dialogue. "Class," he began, steeling himself as he addressed them. "Before we dive into today's lesson, I want to hear from you. What issues matter most? What do you feel like we should address together?" Eyes flickered toward him, the initial hesitance palpable. But one hand shot up. It was Malik, a usually quiet student whose thoughts he had often wondered about. "Can we talk about the lack of resources? The textbooks are outdated, but they still expect us to perform." Jamal leaned in, intrigued. "Yes, Malik. What impact do you think that has on your education?" As Malik articulated his frustrations, others started to join in. The floodgates opened as students began to offer their perspectives, talking about inequities in opportunities, access to advanced courses, and the lingering feeling of being unheard within their educational environment. Each comment added fuel to Jamal's fire, gradually transforming his uncertainty into a burgeoning determination. By the time the bell rang, he felt rejuvenated. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about a collective awakening. Yet lingering questions remained. Could this initial spark grow into something larger? How could he channel the energy of these raw discussions into tangible change? Uncertainty gnawed at him again, the potential backlash looming like an invisible cloud. But this was the moment he realized he had to embrace. The risk was part of growth, both for him and the students. He felt a flicker of resolve settling in, and with a deep breath, he committed to fostering a culture where voices would not only be heard, but celebrated. As he cleaned up the papers on his desk, a thought emerged: what if he actively involved the administration in these conversations? Trust could build bridges he once thought impossible. In that moment of reflection, however, a more concerning feeling struck him. If he were to approach Mr. Henderson, he must prepare. What if his efforts were stifled? What if the conversation took a turn he couldn't control? The uncharted territory lay ahead, filled with uncertainty but also potential. He stepped out of the classroom, resolute but anxious, ready to face the day. Yet there lingered an undeniable question: how would he handle the challenges from those who deemed his ambition naive? The answers were yet to reveal themselves, and just like that, he was standing on the precipice of a confrontation that could alter everything for him and his students. But the fire had been ignited both within him and among his students, and Jamal knew the time had come for him to face the fears that stalked him in silence. Would he falter, or would he rise to meet the call? As Jamal navigated the bustling hallway, the chatter of students enveloped him. His pulse quickened, each footfall echoing with an intensity that mirrored his internal chaos. He was halfway to Mr. Henderson's office, yet the thought of that conversation made him feel both frail and invigorated. What would he even say? The suggestion of involving administration was born from exhilaration but quickly spiraled into anxiety. Would Mr. Henderson dismiss him outright, as he had seen happen to others before? Would he be offended by Jamal's audacity to question the established norms? Each scenario crowded his mind, weaving a web of doubt that threatened to ensnare his resolve. He paused by the window and took a breath, his reflection merging with the world outside: students bustling, laughter echoing, lives full of paradox. He needed to gather courage. What Jamal had witnessed in his classroom was not simply discontent but a yearning for meaningful engagement, for recognition. Each student had stories that were too often unheard. How could he reconcile the dream of making a difference with the reality of potential ridicule from the administration? It was a moral dilemma he had to confront. With each passing second, clarity crystallized. He sought to be an advocate, not just for them, but for himself. He wasn't just a teacher, he was a messenger. The transformative experiences he wished for his students started with his own evolution. But with this realization emerged a nagging fear: what if his initiative jeopardized his job? Was he brave enough to risk that? The door to Henderson's office loomed ahead, stark and unyielding. Jamal's mind raced with his plan. He would not simply voice complaints, he would present solutions. He envisioned a structured proposal that would encapsulate the students' voices mingled with tangible ideas to address resource inequities. What better way to impress the administration than to showcase not just problems but paths forward? He entered the office, and Mr. Henderson looked up from his desk, surprise crossing his features. "Mr. Hayes, what can I do for you?" Henderson's tone was neutral, yet Jamal felt a weight in the air. "Sir, I'd like to discuss some discussions we've been having in class about our resources," Jamal began hesitantly. "Resources? Now that essay topic I thought was settled long ago," Henderson replied, a hint of condescension lurking in his voice. Bracing himself, Jamal pressed on. "Actually, it's the opposite. The students are passionate about the inconsistencies in learning materials and how it affects their education. They want to be part of the conversation around solutions. I believe some concrete ideas could greatly benefit both them and the school." Henderson leaned back, fingers steepled, considering Jamal's words. "And what gives you the confidence that your students can articulate these ideas effectively?" The insinuation stung, but Jamal refrained from reacting defensively. He locked eyes with Henderson, steadying his voice. "I've witnessed their insights firsthand. They are capable, and it's time we acknowledge that. Allowing them a platform to voice their concerns not only empowers them but aligns with our goal to foster critical thinkers." Henderson remained silent, eyebrows furrowing as uncertainty flickered across his face. Could he see the potential in Jamal's proposition? The tension built in the room, electric and fraught with possibility. "I'd like to organize a forum where students can present their views, and perhaps a team to help develop resources that are more aligned with what they truly need for their education. I believe this could change the dynamic in our classrooms for the better," Jamal continued, infusing urgency into his words. Moments stretched, the hum of the surrounding school fading into quiet as he anticipated Henderson's response. "Let me think about it," Henderson finally said, and for the first time in that exchange, Jamal felt a hint of hope flicker. As he exited the office, a strange sense of empowerment wound around him, warming his spirit. He was ready to face the challenges ahead, armed with purpose. But a gnawing thought persisted in the back of his mind: if this proposal fell flat, what other opportunities might slip away? The stakes had risen, and Jamal was acutely aware he was on the edge of not just a professional battle but a personal odyssey. Where would this lead? Would it empower his students, or would he find himself standing alone once again? With resolve fueling him, he stepped back into the hall, preparing for the next stage of his journey, one where he must confront not only the system but also his deep-rooted insecurities and exploration of his identity, fraught with the weight of expectation. The time had come to face the questions that lingered in the shadows, for the outcome of this endeavor hung precariously in balance. What would he uncover within himself in the quest for change? Waves of chatter accompanied Jamal as he walked away from Mr. Henderson's office, but his thoughts were a cacophony of questions. What if his ideas were not well received? What if he was seen as more of a nuisance than a reformer? The exhaustion from the confrontation clung to him like a heavy cloak, yet the small spark of hope ignited something deeper within him, a resolve to transform not just his classroom, but his approach to teaching and leadership. As he navigated the halls, each face he passed ignited a flicker of their passion that he sought to empower. More than a few students had turned to him, eyes bright with ideas, seeking his guidance. A wave of understanding washed over him that these were not just students, they were potential allies. The vision of the proposed forum expanded in his mind, morphing from a mere concept into a vibrant possibility. He returned to his classroom, and as he settled into his desk, he realized that the time had come for planning. What logistical hurdles would he need to navigate? How could he adapt this desire into actionable steps? Painstakingly, he began writing an outline for the initiative. His pen moved quickly across the paper, detailing areas where students felt unheard, along with research on educational inequities relevant to their experiences. As he drafted the plan, his mind opened up to his own vulnerabilities. Teaching was not just about imparting knowledge, it was an invitation to collaborate and innovate. Yet, what if his insights were questioned? What if the students viewed him as an unqualified facilitator, merely acting as their voice? This fear gnawed at him, but the thought of their perspectives validated, their voices amplified, pushed him onward. Jamal resolved to meet with some of the core students he had in mind, those who spoke in class with passion and clarity. He would gather their insights, refine his proposal, and ensure it was shaped by the community it aimed to serve. Feeling buoyed by this strategy, he summoned those students after school. They trickled into the room, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "Thank you all for coming," he began, the nervous flutter in his stomach settling as he locked eyes with them. "I've seen the passion you all carry for our learning environment, and I believe we need to channel that energy into something significant. I want your voices to be heard." He laid out his vision for the forum, inviting their suggestions, fears, and aspirations. Responses came quickly, the room filled with excitement. Ideas bounced around like light, each student offering real concerns and innovative potential solutions. As they spoke, Jamal felt the urgency of their words seep into him. Here were students eager for engagement, eager for challenges, and suddenly he realized their perspectives would elevate the initiative beyond a simple proposal. It would become a quest for authenticity in education, a search for identity through dialogue. But doubt still lingered. Would Henderson understand the value of involving students directly? Would he dismiss the enthusiasm of a few while the rest remained disinterested? Jamal pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the immediate triumph of collaboration unfolding before him. As they concluded their brainstorming session, ideas compiled and spirits high, Jamal felt a sense of belonging wash over him, a world where his students' voices not only mattered but could indeed reshape their learning landscape. However, a new thought dawned on him. What if the success of this forum tested his leadership skills far beyond what he anticipated? Would he be able to nurture this collective energy, or would he falter under the pressure? The stakes felt higher than they had moments before. As he walked the students out, a flicker of doubt rippled through him. Could he truly rise to the occasion and guide this endeavor to fruition, or would he inadvertently stifle their enthusiasm? With the balancing act of enthusiasm and anxiety in his heart, Jamal knew that the real test awaited him. He steeled himself for whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to embrace the inevitable turmoil and potential failure, knowing that growth often thrived in discomfort. What awaited him in the days to come would be more than a professional challenge, it would become a defining chapter of his journey toward self-discovery. Could he harness this moment into something transformative, not just for his students but for himself? The question lingered in the air, suffused with the weight of potential and the thrill of the unknown. Jamal stood on the precipice of his future, the annual school forum only a week away. The murmurs of excitement and trepidation rippled through his mind like a gentle breeze, yet underneath lay a tumultuous sea of anxiety. He had catalyzed a revolution in the hearts of his students, transforming their dissatisfaction into a chorus of empowered voices. However, the impending event raised crucial questions. Would the administration embrace their perspectives, or would they clamp down on their authenticity, shutting down the courage he had so carefully nurtured? As he reviewed the final details of the forum, Jamal appreciated the palpable energy in the classroom. The once muted voices of his students now surged with anticipation, a symphony of passion that had grown stronger through their collaborative efforts. Each one had found agency, catalyzing their engagement and intertwining it with Jamal's leadership. When the day of the forum arrived, Jamal's heart pounded as he stood in front of a large audience comprised of students, faculty, and staff. His peers looked on, their faces mingled with excitement and uncertainty. Standing up there, he felt the weight of every expectation pressing down on him, yet a quiet confidence blossomed from deep within. "I'm grateful to see so many faces here today," he began, his voice steady and resonant. "Today marks not just a presentation, but a celebration of our voices and ideas. It's a testament to the strength we possess when we join together." The audience remained silent, hanging on to his every word. He could sense the transformative power this platform had forged, not only through his courage to stand before them but through the collective voices he had helped amplify. As various students took turns at the podium, sharing poignant stories ranging from experiences of neglect to dreams unfulfilled. Jamal felt an unshakable pride swell within him. He could see his students evolving. They were no longer echoes in the background but vibrant contributors to their own futures. Hearing their genuine concern struck a chord within him. These were the voices that had once been stifled by systemic barriers. The forum sparked meaningful discussions, challenging both the administration and the teachers present to confront the realities in their classrooms. As Jamal transitioned through the flow of the event, he noticed Mr. Henderson's demeanor slowly shift from skepticism to a reluctant openness. The evolving conversations ignited new curiosity in the once seemingly indifferent teacher. The moments passed with palpable urgency, with each speaker reaffirming their worth while uniting under their shared mission of transformation. In a surprising culmination, Mr. Henderson stood up, clearing his throat. The room fell into hushed anticipation as Jamal watched him grapple with his authority, wrestling with the tensions created by previous disengagement. "I must admit, I didn't fully appreciate the challenges you all face," he began, maintaining eye contact with Jamal. "Your courage has shifted my perspective. I want to explore actionable steps to bridge the gap we've allowed to widen. Let us create a committee to address these issues in our curriculum moving forward." The breath of collective relief washed over the audience, the realization settling like a warm embrace. Jamal felt a blend of emotions surge through him: relief, victory, validation, and something else, the dawning of true potential. He had not only paved a pathway for his students but had simultaneously confronted his own insecurities. He had emerged as a powerful advocate, harnessing their collective strength and transforming his self-doubt into tangible change. In the aftermath of the forum, the school buzzed with renewed energy, the discussions igniting a paradigm shift amongst the faculty and students alike. Jamal found himself assuming a natural leadership role, facilitating workshops, and brainstorming sessions that further elevated student voices. Each meeting, each session, became not just an act of mentorship, it became a groundswell of possibility. Weeks later, as he reflected on what he had collectively achieved with his students, Jamal could hardly recognize the man he had once been: the timid teacher who feared the shadows of doubt. Now, he stood with a solid confidence, recognized for his competence. Jamal Carter was more than just a teacher. He had proven to be a beacon of resilience, embodying the very ideals he had once felt were out of reach. As he awaited the school board's decision on the implementation of the advocacy committee, Jamal took a moment to internalize the transformative journey he had undertaken, not just for his students but for himself. He had conquered the doubts, embraced vulnerability, and forged a path toward authenticity, emerging both fulfilled and empowered. This was not merely a final act but a new beginning, a robust commitment to ensuring that voices, especially his own, would never again be diminished. It was his story, and today he had finally begun to write it. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for transformative tales like this. Comment your reactions and theories about how Jamal's journey unfolds and what it means for all of us in our struggles. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. This is the moment to champion voices of overcoming and inspire change.